Hey there, I'm Frank. Frank the Bulldog. Brooklyn born and raised. Well, okay, technically born in a shelter and adopted by my guy, Henry, who swears he saved me from a sad life of solitude. Yeah, right. Solitude is a myth they tell people when they want them to adopt dogs. Truth is, I had a bustling social life, at least until Henry came along with his big grin and a set of keys jangling like he was unlocking the gates of paradise. I could hardly believe my luck. A personal chauffeur with a dog bed in the back? Sign me up. Now, let's get one thing straight. I like my life the way it is. I've got a cushy setup. Henry's 30-something, works at some place where people talk on phones a lot, sells things that make people feel safe or something like that. And he's a great guy. Really great. Likes to scratch behind my ears at exactly the right spot. Knows how I like my kibble. A touch of warm water. None of that fancy frou-frou stuff. And even does this little voice sometimes to make me laugh. So yeah, life with Henry is about as good as it gets for a dog like me. But friends? Pfft, not interested. Friends bring drama. Friends eat your kibble when you're not looking. And friends try to sit on your favorite couch cushion. My cushion, thank you very much. But all that was about to change one afternoon. So one day, Henry decides he's going to expand my horizons. Next thing I know, he's dragging me along to this new spot, a fancy yard, freshly fenced, smack in the middle of our block. It's got grass, trees, and the unmistakable scent of shelter dog. Yep, you know it when you smell it. The dog who's been there before you. The bark of his stories echoing in every sniff. And sure enough, when we get there, I see them. 3 of them. Dogs like me, with that look. The I've been through the system look. There's Lulu, this scrappy little terrier mix who's got more energy than a squirrel in a peanut factory. Then there's Rocco, a lanky greyhound mix who thinks he's too cool for fetch. Probably learned it from one of those hipster owners. And finally there's Max, a retriever pit mix who seems like he's in charge but can't figure out the leash from the stick half the time. The moment they see me, they're all over me. Hey, you new around here. You sniff good, buddy. And want to play tug? But do I look like a tug kind of guy? I give them my best bulldog scowl. Buzz off. But Henry, being the soft-hearted guy he is, decides we're here to stay for a while. He's sitting on the bench, chatting with some other humans, and I'm just supposed to sit here with these bozos. Oh no, but something strange happens. They don't leave. Lulu's still hopping around like she's on a sugar high. Rocco's pretending not to care. And Max is just drooling and grinning, like he's the friendly giant of the block. I start to feel this weird warmth. The thought crosses my mind. Maybe, just maybe, these mutts aren't all bad. All right, fine, I mutter under my breath. I'll bite. Not literally, of course. Henry would ground me if I did that. I saunter over to Lulu first, since she seems the most likely to appreciate my sarcasm. Don't you ever sit still? I ask. She laughs, and it's this high-pitched bark that would be annoying if it weren't so happy. Sitting still is for the dogs they don't love, Frank, she says with a grin that's impossible to hate. That gets me thinking. Turns out she's right. Shelter dogs have 2 modes. We're either full speed or dead asleep. None of this middle ground nonsense. I can't help but chuckle. Maybe she's onto something. Then there's Rocco, the aloof greyhound. What's your deal? I ask him, halfway intrigued by his too cool for the park vibe. He shrugs, giving me this sideways glance. Been through 3 homes, he says. Humans get me for my looks, but they never keep me for my heart. A little poetic for a dog, but hey, who am I to judge? I'm starting to get it. These dogs, they've been through it, just like me. And Max, he's a riot. After 5 minutes, he's already panting and wagging his tail like I'm his best friend in the world. Frank, he says between breaths, we've got to stick together, man. We're shelter dogs. Family. And there it is. That word. Family. Never thought I'd hear it come from a dog who probably chases his own shadow. Of course, with family comes fighting. It didn't take long. We're in the yard. Things are good. And then, bam! Max decides he's the king of the yard and tries to boss me around. Frank, you're taking up too much space on the grass, he says. Excuse me. I'm a bulldog. Taking up space is practically my job description. I give him a growl, and Lulu and Rocco watch, wide-eyed. "Look, Max," I say, "you may be the big guy here, but I'm not moving an inch." We're at a standoff. Henry's oblivious, of course. He's chatting up some lady with a dachshund in a sweater. But us dogs, we're dead serious. This yard is prime real estate, and I'm not giving it up. But then something funny happens. Lulu, of all dogs, gets between us. "Guys, we're all shelter dogs. We have to stick together, right?" She looks at us, her eyes big and pleading, and I feel something crack. She's right. We're all in this together. Max backs off, and I give him a nod. "No hard feelings, pal." He grins, wagging his tail like a kid who just got his first treat. "Yeah, it's not perfect, but hey, it's a start. We're a bunch of scrappy shelter dogs learning the ropes of friendship, one argument at a time. Over the next few days, something strange starts happening. I'm looking forward to seeing these dogs. Yeah, that's right. Me, Frank the Bulldog, actually eager to sniff out my so-called friends in the yard. And it's not like they suddenly became perfect or anything. No, they're just as much of a mess as ever. But for reasons I can't explain, that's starting to feel endearing. Take Lulu, for example. The first thing she does every time we meet is try to climb onto my back, yipping, "You're my royal bulldog chariot, Frank." Of course, I give her the side-eye and shake her off, but she never gives up. And there's something about her persistence that makes me grin, though I'd never admit it. Rocco, meanwhile, has this whole sophisticated thing going on. He's the only dog I know who sniffs a hydrant, squints and says, top notes of turkey with hints of gravel. I'm not kidding. But even though he's a bit of a snob, he's good for a chuckle. And sometimes, when we're all together, he lets his guard down, chasing after Lulu in a way that's downright goofy. And Max? The guy's all heart. He's like one of those big teddy bears you can't help but love, no matter how clueless he is. Last week, I watched him try to fetch a ball and bring back a rock. Not sure he knows the difference, but the tail wag was pure joy. So who am I to judge? Just when I thought we were settling into a routine, something happened that turned me into a hero. Against my will, I might add. It was a typical sunny afternoon, and we were all goofing around, sniffing out our favorite spots in the yard. Then, out of nowhere, we heard this strange barking from the other side of the fence. It was high-pitched, frantic. A puppy. Max, being the big softy he is, rushed over first, barking back like he could somehow reassure the little guy. "Don't worry, buddy. We're coming." Lulu and Rocco joined in, trying to climb the fence to see what was going on. And then, of course, they all looked at me. "Frank," Rocco said, all dramatic, "you're the strongest one here. You've got to help him." I rolled my eyes. I'm a bulldog, not a superhero. But those puppy whimpers got to me. So, with a sigh, I waddled over to the fence, squinted through a gap, and saw the little guy, a chihuahua, no bigger than my paw, looking lost and scared. Turns out he'd gotten out of his yard and was too small to make it back. Before I knew it, I was squeezing myself under the fence, dragging the little guy out with my snout. He clung to me, trembling, and I brought him back to our side like a champ. When we were finally safe, Max started cheering. Lulu did her victory dance, and Rocco looked at me like I'd just saved the whole dog world. And I have to admit it felt good, really good. After the excitement, we all collapsed under the big oak tree, catching our breath. Max kept nudging me, saying, "You're a hero, Frank. We should give you a medal." Lulu chimed in with, "Or at least a fancy collar. Something with sparkles." I rolled my eyes. "Listen, guys, I'm no hero. I just didn't want that little guy messing up our yard with his whining." They laughed, and for a moment I felt something warm spread through my chest. Was this pride? Maybe, just maybe, being part of a pack had its perks. Later, we got into swapping stories about the shelters we came from. Lulu talked about her days in a loud kennel where she'd bark so much they called her Miss Shout. Rocco shared his story of bouncing from home to home because no one appreciates fine tastes. And Max, well, he doesn't remember much, just that he was always the friendliest guy in the room. Figures. As for me, I told them about the day Henry came to get me, about how he knelt down, looked me right in the eyes and said, "You ready to come home, big guy?" And how, for the first time, I felt like someone actually saw me, not just a bulldog. but frank. Over the next few weeks, I found myself feeling a strange kind of vulnerability, the kind that comes from actually caring about these misfits. When Max barked good morning to me each day with his dopey grin, it made me happy. When Lulu hopped around me in circles, I felt lighter. And when Rocco shared his deep thoughts on kibble, I actually listened. One day, Henry and I showed up, but the yard was empty. No Lulu, no Max, no Rocco. I felt a pang in my gut. Were they okay? Had they been adopted and taken to new homes? I realized I didn't want to lose them. I'd finally found a pack, and I wasn't ready to give them up. Luckily, it turned out they were just late, stuck in traffic or whatever their humans call it. But that moment, it reminded me that just like Henry, these dogs had snuck their way into my heart. Whether I liked it or not, they were family now. As the weeks rolled on, we became a real crew. We had our routines, our inside jokes, even our little tiffs. But we always had each other's backs. Max would bring me sticks, Lulu would insist I was her royal steed, and Rocco would share his musings on every scent in the yard. And I was happy, content. Something I'd never thought I'd be as a shelter dog. It's funny, really. I used to think friends were overrated, that I was better off alone with my cozy bed and steady kibble supply. But these dogs taught me something, that there's a special kind of warmth that comes from knowing you've got a pack, that even when Henry's at work, I'm not really alone. So here we are, a bunch of scrappy shelter dogs, hanging out in a Brooklyn yard like we own the place. And in a way we do. We're family, bound not by blood, but by something stronger, the shared journey of finding a place in this world. Henry still doesn't get it. He thinks we're just playing, just socializing. But I know better. Every time Lulu hops on my back, every time Max tries to give me his stick, every time Rocco shares his latest scent profile, I know I've found something real. I've got a forever family. Not just with Henry, but with these dogs who've become my pack. So yeah, maybe friends aren't so bad.